doing it in production.
We'll fix it in post, and
We'll
start
fix
laughing.
it in post, but we're doing it live. That's the fun part about working on all these movie companies that we get to work with. They actually do things in post.
They are some of my favorite, honestly.
They have cool stuff. In case anyone doesn't know, movie companies from a tech side are cool to work with. Welcome to Vlog Thursday, number 321. Rack questions, lab testings, Errata, and the rack questions, and probably I should have titled it hardware reliability, kind of go hand in hand, because I knew when I did the rack video, the armchair people will get upset of what wasn't there. And there's at least one user who just thinks everything should have redundant connections. And I mean, when they warrant it, but when they don't, why do I need redundant 10 gig links? I'm trying to figure that out still.
If you're in a colo, I get it, where you're not. Yeah, it's a 4-hour drive for me to go fix that. Okay, I understand that.
Yeah, so the rack video just invited so many comments related to that. So it's one of those things, like I'm going to pull up and bring it up as an image here so we can kind of walk people through it for those that didn't watch the rack video. But hey, I do have the rack video, so you can watch that video, come back and play us at 2x and catch up to the conversation. But but this is the back of our Ryzen servers, and they don't have we have separated our storage versus network. That part is done. What we have not done though is created any redundant links between them, because it's just not that necessary for what we do. It comes down to what your use case is. So I will say, it's not saying never, but I'm saying not very frequently is this needed. So this is the basic setup here. We have this 10 gig link going to storage, which is down here at the 45 drives. We have these 25 gig links on there. And someone asked, and do you know the answer, Steve, to why I put QR codes on there?
In the hopes that someone would scan them?
Yes, because they're Rickrolls.
Yes.
So it's not really an organization thing. It's more about just I did it for the lulls when I put it on there. I wanted to label the one that was for storage, but then when the orange cables came in, it became rather obvious which ones are storage. But
yeah, I color coded everything when I designed this.
Yeah.
So I have to remember now. I want to say the green.
The green is the IPMI.
That's what I thought. Green's IPMI. Gray is something.
Yeah, gray's
the management network for it.
Well, no, IPMI is network management, and then the gray is the secure network, if you will, the separate with a different thing on there. So, I mean, I granted, like the power supply, we didn't go with redundant power supplies. We cared more about power efficiency. And if you go redundant power supplies, you sacrifice a level of efficiency. We have two servers. So if a server goes down, I can start the VMs on another server. Plus, we're technical people, and it isn't going to take us more than, I would say maybe an hour to replace a power supply if we're dragging our feet and I have to get off the phone and I got to unbox it. Like maybe there's an hour from the time it died to the time it is completely down there. So it's just one of those things that people overthought it so much. It just comes down to we got rid of, and we did because we have a use case for it. We had some R730s and we sold them to a client. They have levels of redundancy in them, and we sold them to a client who needed that level of redundancy because the power supply failure for them, even an hour, is a bad thing to them. So it's actually just a spare server for some workloads. Like they needed an extra server. So there's definitely times to put HA in there, but in our office is not one of them. I just don't know why people think like I should have a power bill double what I have.
Not to mention their consumer power supplies. It's not like we're talking a Dell proprietary slide-in power supply that we're going to be on the phone and you are a few days out on shipping.
Yeah.
We have them on the shelf. And in fact, we keep a spare one in a box in the rack.
And I want to point this out, though, because this is the other side of it, too. And we can tell you this because we manage a lot of systems. And Steve, how many tickets a day are for hardware failure?
almost none. Well, almost none for hardware failure that you could make fault tolerant. I can't solve, your printer died.
Yeah. I want to answer this first question here. Is it common practice to have a storage server and another virtualization server that stores the VMs on the storage server, OS, and everything? Yes, that's a common setup in the enterprise. You generally have a separation between storage and compute. Even in your cloud compute, even though you may see it as a thing, there's not necessarily, there's a separation. There's the SAN that you'll have at the large enterprise versus the compute nodes. But if you read this, and I can throw a link to this for people interested, this is Tom's Hardware. This is a review from Puget Releases Hardware Reliability part. They're a high-end builder of systems. But one of the things they talk about here, and it's going to be kind of small to read on the screen, so let me throw a link in there for all those following along at home. Basically, too long, didn't read, with a limited exception of this field failure rate of these, NVIDIA Quattro. That was the only thing that even had a higher failure rate among GPU cards. Their failure rate, though, out in the field for like the more common RTX cards and things, that was 0.26%. But in terms of server failures, most of these server failure problems they're having, like these are processor failure rates from 2019 to 2021, so modern processors. You're looking at, with one fluke being the Intel Core 11 or Intel Core 11th generation one with a 5%. Most of these failure rates, I mean, look at this, 0.29%, 0.8%. It's just one of those things that they just don't have. Hardware does not have the failure rate it used to have. It's always a software problem. Like our tickets a month are rarely a hardware failure. There's one exception to that. And of course, this is why TrueNAS is so popular. I thought this was funny. Once you start breaking down all of the stuff, let me find the exact one. This is another page I have here, right here. So among hardware failures, what fails? 80% of the failures, hard drives. Like hard drives are the failure rate.
And I think those Quattro cards fail because when you look at the heatsink design on an RTX versus the Quattro, you'll see why those fail.
Yeah. It was also Puget notes that these are They're also systems that are they're the RTX, they're the $4,000 ones. They're not as well mass produced. They're like the ones that we just put in for that one AMD build we just did. They're not as mass produced. They're kind of a niche system, and most of their failures were in the lab, so they were shipped to them like that. They didn't fail after they left the build. They failed the build test. So that's why Puget has two numbers on all of these,
like bad out of the box versus bad in production.
The failed in the field is that other number. So 6.7% failed out of the box, essentially, like in their lab, 0.7% in the field. So once, if they worked when they got there and like they set them up and started working them, they continued out in the field over the next few years working. So, but back to, it's pretty much hard drives though. That's one of the things, like, and RAID saves you from that. That's the most common failure is, and not too surprisingly, is hard drives. Now, SSD failure rates are not that high. I think, do they have the SSD failures in here? Yeah, here we go. They're on this page.
The only thing that scares me about SSD failures is you don't know they're coming.
They're catastrophic.
It doesn't work today.
Yep, it works until it doesn't. There was no warning. There's no,
the hard drive. You can hear it. It feels a little slower. You're like, something seems a little off. And in fact, my mom was just telling me about that at her work. The IT guy came out and she's like, yeah, I'm trying to do this stuff and it feels really slow. He starts going through processes and that and looks at it. He goes, your drive's dying. I'm just going to take this and clone it now before it dies.
But the failure rate on the SSDs, the Samsung Evos were at 0%.
That seems sus.
The Samsung 860 Pros are at 0.1%, and the 980 Pros are at 0.11 at the highest. So I don't think it's that. It's just one of those things. Like they're just not that common. It's just not that common for hardware to fail. With hard drives being the limited exception in that. So Yeah, it's just one of those things. And this is why, for now, the RAID arrays and TrueNAS are incredibly popular because we still haven't got especially the spinning media, but generally speaking in media, it's just not that fault tolerant. So it's just one of the few things I want to share with the crowd here. And this is, working in the industry gives you an insight into this, because the problem you have is if you have something fail, it may be stuck in your head that it's a failure. But how many of that something did you have? With us, we manage IT for like 70 different companies. We're doing all these tickets from all this consulting that comes in from YouTube and everything else we get going on. It's like we're interacting in it all the time, and we're having people call us when they're having problems. And most of those problems they have are not hardware. They're misconfigured software. 2 calls I did today were completely goofed up systems in virtualization. So that was and we didn't find a hardware problem yet with either one of these systems. The problem with SSD raiders, they all fail at the same time. There is a chance of that. When who was it? Seagate had those SSDs that had the bad firmware. There was a timer. They only would work till a certain amount of time. Unfortunately, they were all put in at that same time, all started at that same time. So predictably, they would fail all at that same time. Yeah. So that's definitely an issue. Now, I see someone here. I've seen more PSU failures and hard drive failures. If you have something in a hot room, yeah, that's a thing. There's definitely bad power, dust, dirt. Like power supply failures are common under less than ideal conditions. Yes.
I think I've seen more hard drive than PSU, but usually when a PSU goes, there's so many variables, like Tom said, with the bad power and that, but also what all are you running in it and who made it?
Yeah. And as far as like the Dell PSUs, in those, I can't think of a time I've had to replace a Dell PSU. Like for all the
servers, I don't think we ever have.
And they're nice, and we have the redundant hot swap ones in a lot of these. Pretty much we even we retired those. What were those? The Dell 2960s those things are hugely inefficient, old servers, way past the end of life, but they're still spinning and whirring, and there is just like dust bunnies hanging off the back of them, and the thing just keeps working. Like this thing is so dirty, I can't believe it's on.
We had that client who had the server that saw the Clinton administration.
Yeah,
and it was still going.
Exactly. So, I mean, consumer ones, yeah, they're definitely gonna there.
Yeah, the Dell and HP consumer, they're notorious for putting the bare minimum wattage needed. So as the power supply ages and the wattage now drops, the effective output drops, they go.
Yeah. Speaking of redundant arrays of things, we did get a Stornado in, so I'll be doing a quick review of that. It's novel. It's a Stornado. I just really like the whole 45 drive setup. The Stornados are just one more. We haven't done any testing on one. They don't top load, they front load, but they're SSD arrays. So that thing's all set up. That's where I think I got the tab over here. So I haven't configured anything yet on it. It's just configured in terms of I wanted to make sure it worked. I'll do some load testing on it and make sure it does what it's supposed to do. We created a test pool. But once again, why is there an array of disks in this thing? Because stuff goes wrong. We got some 3.49 TB SSDs in it. So I'm sure it will be fast. Stornado is badass. I will go with that. The next topic, I'll let Steve comment on this one because people ask this question all the time, and it was asked again today of Steve. But I did a whole video on this, and UniFi really stands out in the market alone. I know TP-Link is a thing, but for the most part, you can't get much better than UniFi for the price point management. People ask about MikroTik, and for example, if you have 20 switches in your organization, the management plane for MikroTik not as good. Management plane for Netgear has some cloud offering, it's okay. Ingenious has a cloud offering. I did a review of it. Not okay. It's ugly. And all these, of course, don't allow you self-hosted controllers. So if you start with a prerequisite of I want a self-hosted controller and a reasonably priced switch, you're gonna run into going UniFi or TP-Link. And TP-Link, I don't have the biggest trust in security or longevity of the product. And they're what, 20% less than UniFi? They're not like half.
I wouldn't. The TP-Link Omada stuff I wouldn't be looking at because, like you said, it's such a close price to the UniFi. Get the UniFi, which has a more reputable controller. TP-Link is where I go when I want like a cheap one-off switch.
Yeah.
Like they don't make bad hardware, but
I don't trust them for security very well.
No.
Like I just don't feel like there is on it with security. It's so and this may be a different market. And this is something interesting that I don't have good insight into. Omada is about 40% off in mid Europe. Now that's where I do know there's some big differences. Some of them hardware being American centric here, and I don't look up and understand the pricing models in Europe as much. Yeah, there may be a bigger price difference in Europe for UniFi than there is here with import taxes and things like that. That I can't speak to as well. So, but I also don't feel just like Steve. We've talked about like I remember Log4j was an easy example of a security update that took a while.
Yeah, and I think some of it is with Europe and that. Look at with the client we have in Canada who buys UniFi equipment from the U.S. store and then has it shipped to us because he can't get it in the Canadian store.
Yeah, some things are just not available. So once you start crossing markets, I know that muddies the waters a bit in terms of that. But yeah, it's just there's still not a competitor. But I think the reason there's not a competitor, it's like UniFi is got like a $13 billion market cap. They're not easy to. If I wanted to start up a company, I would have to raise an absolute ton of capital, then get people to believe in my product, which is a long multi-year run by reaching out to a bunch of YouTubers and sending them hardware, which is exactly what Ubiquity did. They reached out to lots of YouTubers and sent us hardware.
Cody's here.
Yeah, and Cody just thank them. They sent Cody something else. They don't send me anything else because I was too harsh on their product, I guess. I don't know.
We said mean things about the disappointment machine.
Yeah, I keep calling it a UniFi disappointment machine, so there's that. So, yeah, I think it's just kind of one of those things. It's so hard to compete in the market against them. And the fact that you only can compete by selling massive amounts of hardware because the moment you charge for your controller is the moment you lose out, so to speak, to, let's go back to Ubiquity. Because there's a couple companies that try to compete with them. I had someone reach out to me and I asked them how, and they didn't reply yet. They said they're building a Ubiquity competitor. I said, how? Because Ingenious told me they were too. And how bad was the Ingenious locally hosted controller, Steve?
Wait, I was responding to something. I drifted out for the question.
How bad was the Ingenious when they tried to compete with Ubiquity?
Oh, so when I did that setup, that was a few years back. They had two or three different controllers at the time, depending on what Ingenious product line you bought. And the one the client had, you could self-host it, but it wasn't an installer. It was an image for a Linux OS that it was designed to run on a Raspberry Pi, basically. So you got this ISO that you had to spin up on a Raspberry Pi or load in VMware and then configure the web ports for and then log into.
Yeah, that's it was just bad. They abandoned it. The Ingenious has their own cloud now, and it's just I will answer this person because I've seen some questions on it. Reolink versus Amcrest. Amcrest. So we bought a bunch of Reolink. We had a high failure rate, not like 50% or anything crazy, but high.
10% maybe.
Maybe 10%. It was annoying.
And their RMA process was so.
Yeah.
But that's actually why I use Western Digital instead of Seagate, the RMA process. So we moved to Amcrest, and we've only had a couple of them. Like we're down to maybe 1-2%. And the one that I just replaced was a bad seal. That happens on anything.
Yeah. So our feelings are still that they're pretty good. So the I haven't tested Reolink recently to see if they make a better camera today than I mean the last time I bought one was I think 2019. So we actually haven't bought any in a couple of years.
We've used a few GeoVisions, and to my understanding, those are all still working. And we have a client who had a GeoVision system from another company that, most of their problems are like the cheap PoE switch the other company used died. So if you can't get an Amcrest, take a look at a GeoVision.
Yeah. I also will comment. Someone said Cisco has a higher market cap than Ubiquiti, but Cisco's not. Cisco's like a completely different. Like Ubiquiti's a niche company. Cisco's a mega company doing so many different things. Like they don't just make switches. But it's and they have as me and Steve were trying to point out last week in Vlog Thursday, Cisco's trying to compete in that market space. They're doing an awful job of it. Like sure they have the the enterprise market, there's no doubt, because people are used to buying them and they make some good products. And they certainly, when you get to the enterprise level switches, they have features that you do not get with Ubiquiti. And I'll agree with that. But do you need those features is the question. It's like, I mean, Freightliner makes a hell of a truck and, but I don't really need it to go to the grocery store, but it definitely can haul way more than my truck. There's no doubt. Like the the $500,000 Freightliner truck certainly is able to do more than Tom's Dodge truck, but it's not what I need to go to the grocery store or tow my motorcycle. So you don't buy a Cisco, you rent it. Yeah, the license fees are a thing. Amcrest comparable quality.
I think he meant to say Reolink.
Probably.
The video quality on the Reolink was really not bad. It was good quality. All of our issues with it were more of a physical build quality. Like we had more of them that tend to have like bullet cameras that would get moisture in them.
Yeah. And by the way, this is a let me confirm it before I say it, that this is before I share it, I should say. But I think this one's one of the, what model is this? Yeah. So I have we had that Reolink at the office laying around because we didn't buy anymore. So I've got the Reolink at my house. It works. It's the Reolink RLC 422. I've had it now in my house for a while. We had it as a demo unit at the office, but it even has this is a PTZ model, so I can actually zoom in and out with it, and it works great. I haven't had any problems at all with this one.
It's also indoors.
It's also, it's inside my garage. It's not exposed to the weather.
And that, I think, is where most of our failures were on exposed ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mostly. But oddly, I know we have Reolink at that one outdoor park, and it works. That's been working.
We had to replace one.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we did have to replace one there. We have them out at that moving company. We've had to, I think,
replace moving company ones, and because we had to get a lift to go replace them. That's the part that I said, all right, we're putting up a different one. So because I had to replace these.
And it was same thing. It was moisture, and I think the one at the park was a bad seal on a dome, and then the moving company was a bad seal on a bullet cam, which is usually unheard of.
Yeah. I have a video all about securing your network. I don't even care if they want to contact China. You don't need to give your cameras internet access. Don't do it.
Usually what we do when we do a Synology setup, only the Synology gets internet access. So we usually create the firewall rule. The IP address the Synology is at, you get internet. Everything else, nothing.
Yep. You don't need to give them internet so it becomes a complete non-issue. That's the important part, is mitigate the problem by not allowing it to happen. I maybe do a video sometime of where do these cameras reach out to. All they reach out to that I've ever seen, though, is like the Amcrest ones. They're just pinging some NTP server. They're not sending any data, not enough data, I should say. They're certainly not sending a camera stream based on how little data they send. So in the likelihood of these guys, I think they're more inept than they are nefarious. Like they're
built in China. They're set to use China time.
Yeah. They'll look, what is the server they look up? So maybe I'll do this as a video. Someone will be curious about it. I'll just show all the logs of where they go, which is really nowhere. They're not sending much data. Have I looked at Frigate? No, I haven't had time. I've been busy. It's, for those of you wondering, Frigate is an open source NVR. It still looks like just a hobby project. It's been low on my list of, like, it looks neat. Like, hey, I want to play with that, but I'm busy doing lots of other things. But it's novel because it's an open source project for that has some cool object tracking. It's not anything I would ever. It's not ready for commercial usage at all. Not that I could tell. But hey, it looks like a fun project for home lab people to play with. So definitely play with it.
Do you want to pull up the
Which one?
One from Z Racer, Z400 Racer, the Synology and cameras on their own. Yeah, that one. I was going to respond to it. I'll respond to it here.
Yeah.
So we put the Synologies and the cameras, the NVR Synology and the cameras go on the same network. If you need a data Synology, yes, that is a separate Synology. We always separate those out, especially because you don't want to mix the drive wearing of your NVR Synology and the fact that you're going to fill it up recording all that data with, hey, I need to put data somewhere.
Yep. Someone else says, Relink not bad. Have 25 outside cameras, had one broken. So 1 in 25.
4%.
Yeah.
A little bit better than us, I think.
I don't think YubiKey has, maybe I'm wrong. Is there a YubiKey support for RDP? I don't think there is natively.
I don't know.
I've never tried to use it, so.
I don't know that it would pass that.
Yeah, I don't think there's I could be wrong. I've not used it I don't use Windows RDP, and we don't have, most of our users, if they're using RDP, they VPN in first. So I would not expose RDP.
No.
Even if it's, because the problem with RDP isn't two-factor, it's Microsoft's poor code and flaws in it. So I trust the people who write VPN software to be more robust, to be internet facing than Microsoft's problems they have with writing RDP software, which they've had several flaws that allowed you to break their RDP.
And you can keep it up to date all you want. There's always some new 0 day for RDP.
Yep. Let's see. Do you guys know of any good endpoint manager besides Mesh Central? We don't. So my problem I have with things like Mesh Central, I don't know if they've gone through any security auditing. I don't keep up with that software. Maybe they've got around to having a security audit. But when it comes to software that you want to trust for managing things, there's a reason we use some of the commercial software. I would love, in Bitwarden's an example of this. And by the way, you can dig around through old vlogs. You guys, maybe it was some of you, maybe it was someone else. I was always asked about things like, Tom, what about Bitwarden? I'm like, have they gone through a security audit? But they're the open source password manager. And I'm like, yeah, have they gone through a security audit? And when Bitwarden went through a security audit, we moved to Bitwarden. So I'm not against using an open source program that's gone through security auditing. I just haven't had a chance to look at Mesh Central, and I certainly am not qualified myself to validate their security. And I'm certainly not about to rely on the fact that they wrote something that they think is secure, not until it goes through some rigorous testing. There's an RDP certificate auth, but it doesn't actually work. If DoD funding doesn't get them to make it fix it, I don't know what will. Well, Microsoft's such a monopoly. Like Microsoft's, they just can't make rules in the government that would break Microsoft because they can't. There's not an alternative. They've got such a monopoly on the market. So 3389 was never supposed to be internet facing. Oh yeah, but you can go on Shodan and know that.
I responded to that one. Neither was SMB, but people still do it. We just did work for a client who had AFP exposed. He's like, yeah, we're gonna set up a VPN and I'm gonna retrain everyone. So we're gonna fix that.
Yeah.
He just took
my
them
thoughts
over.
on Veeam. Veeam's not bad. I have friends that use it. It looks good. They seem to like it. I've heard it's got some. It's not cheap, but it's supposed to work really well. Has nice integrations. I like the fact that you can roll your own storage on it, so that part's nice. And someone says, yes, RDP can be configured to use YubiKey 502. Okay. I don't know how, but I imagine it's a Google search to see how they integrate. Can't fix stupid, but you can bill for it. It's not possible to fix it, but we can send you a bill. Took over local business, and now that they have QNAP exposed to the internet, they have RDP. Of course. I mean, why not go all in on this?
It wouldn't be the first time. I went to a client's once, and I'm like, how do you access your server? Because they said they had a VPN. And we were looking at replacing the firewall. I go, can you show me this VPN? Yeah, we just clicked the icon on our desktop. Hey, Brett, can you go to this IP address in RDP? Yeah, it's just open to the world. You don't have a VPN.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you have plans to use Elastic or AMP monitoring? Not on my to-do list. Elastic's neat, but yeah. I sell to fix stupid every day. Yeah, sometimes. Yep. I should make a shirt that says that. Yeah, maybe. Can you provide examples that to be exposed to the internet? Is that like having your NAS accessible for cloud access?
Yeah, basically, the client we did some work for, they're a mostly Apple shop, and that's how they were writing to the file shares. They were just mounting them to their Macs when out in the field, and they just had AFP open to the world.
Yeah, people do a lot of things like that. We sorted out a medical place that was using public IPs for the sharing between the scanning system. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
It was like mind-numbing that they were setting them up this way. Now, what saves them in that case is a lot of cable modems block port 135 and things like that.
Yeah.
It actually wasn't sharing it with the world. And they did have a password on it. So, but still, like,
it's an SMB password.
Getting public IPs to do your SMB sharing and assigning public IPs to medical equipment, scanning imaging devices so it could share the stuff. It was just like, when VPN equals virtually private. My job exists because of stupid engineers. Yeah, we unravel a lot of mysteries. People create things.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a consulting call this morning. They have new IT that took over, and they contracted us and have some future plans. So this is going to be a sounding board for. We don't know why the guy did this. I want to make sure he wasn't playing 4D chess when he set this up, but it looks dumb. I looked at him like, yeah, I don't know why I did that either. Okay, cool. We're gonna start fixing it. Any Borg, Matic, Arclone automate regular encrypted backups SMB shares to go directly to TrueNAS using second time machine required? Not really. I've not used Borg or Arclone for that. I mean, I'm sure tools exist. Borg backup's popular. People seem to like it. It's a good open source. I'm saying I've heard it's a good open source, but it's not on my to-do list to use it. We don't use it commercially and don't plan to. So you're kind of, I mean, there's enough people using it. You could probably find some documentation on it, but it's not something we engineer for people or would. Too low on the list. Usually you want some commercial product, and the biggest reason for it is you want some monitoring you can do of the backups, because untested backups or unwatched backups, you don't know if they're happening. And Synology Active Backup, as much as we like it, we also can't push it commercially because we can't be the babysitter for it because it doesn't have a central dashboard for multi-tenancy. I don't know why it doesn't. Not because I haven't asked the engineers. It's only because the engineers haven't gotten around to writing it. So it's just one of those. It's one of those things. Like there's all kinds of cool backup solutions out there, but without a way to centrally manage them, there's no way. It doesn't scale for us to manage backups for many, many clients. It becomes labor intensive if I can't bring all that data in one place.
Yeah, and we get asked about the Synology one all the time, and it's just.
As long as
I told one client,
problem.
I'm putting a Synology. I put a Synology in to host the local copy of their backup, and one of the employees is like, "Hey, I use Synologies at home, and I know how to do active backup. Can you set that up for me?" I go, "As long as you're the one monitoring it, I'll make you a user." And sure,
Yeah.
And so we have one employee at a client. He manages his own backup, and I told him, because he even asked that. He goes, "Why don't you guys just do that?" I go, "There's no central dashboard. We can't scale this to." If we were a one-off, like within a single business, it makes perfect sense. But when you got 30, 40 different businesses that you're doing this on, there is no way to scale that.
Yeah. And I don't doubt that Borg backup is, a cool product and everything else, and it's neat. But without a nice central dashboard, it's hard to scale it across clients. I mean, for your project, it may work. And if you're working internal IT and your job as an internal IT is to build the dashboard and manage it, or a home lab that you manage, great, you can do it. But when your job is, I need a multi-tenancy system where from my office, we can have one central dashboard that sees into 70 different companies. Now you have a different challenge, and you have to meet that challenge to be able to do it. So Borg does have some type of central management based on another open source project. So, I mean, it can be pieced together, it sounds like. Right under the green text in there, always check your backups. Probably. Do they support Windows too? Here's all the stuff for setting up here. From standalone binary, do they have a Windows binary? Linux, Mac, FreeBSD. We love or hate it, we have to back up Windows machines. So
those are the ones you should be backing up.
Yeah. So, I mean, cool that it's got Linux support in there, but I'm not going to, I like the backups for XCP-ng. So, like, the backups work good. So let's go ahead and run this backup here for XCP-ng. I like the backups for that, but it comes back to scale. We're managing our XCP-ng solution. If, we have to manage it centrally versus if you start managing everybody's, it becomes a different dynamic. Now, there's actually ways to do this with XCP-ng to do some of the management, but it's just all the things you have to consider is how scalable is it, and not everybody runs XCP-ng, so that's an entire different challenge that pops up for this one. Oh, I gotta recompile this so this bug gets fixed, because it's gonna be fixed in 53,000 years. They found the bug, and I tweeted at them, and they said yes, they are completely aware, and they fixed it already. Was it last week that we pointed this out?
I don't know. I don't know.
I can't remember. It made
me laugh.
What
is the bug? Is it like telling us number of seconds and then telling us years?
I don't know. I just know it's funny.
Okay.
In 103,000 years, 94,000 years ago, this is the estimated end time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Years ago, no less.
I know. It's really wrong. Yeah, but it's not always wrong. I can't figure out why it's wrong sometimes and run. It's a fun bug. It's just great to watch.
I just want it to stay kinda. I like it. It's amusing.
I know. I like these numbers. It's way more fun than watching how many seconds it takes for a backup to run. Yeah. And someone said there's another one called Copia Backup. Do you use Markham Reflect? I do not. We have used it. Did we use it before? We used to use one of those for cloning.
Our landlord uses it.
What's that?
Our landlord uses it.
Yeah, our landlord uses it.
One client, the one that went through a few, they're all kind of IT related, but they went through a few people, and the one guy left and then came back later, and I think left again. I'm trying to remember you, but without saying the name.
Oh yeah,
but they used it, I believe, and then that's when they had that raid that died, and I had to do backup restores from a USB drive, and that was the best 2 weeks of my life.
yeah. I think it took less than the number of years it said it was going to take to run this backup. I was just curious since I had left that up on the screen. 90%, 91. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Macrium's a bad product. It
seemed
worked every time we've used it.
Yeah. It's like a Cronus and all those other ones.
Mm-hmm.
They work. They generally make a pretty good product.
I would call it better. I don't know. Does Macrium have a dashboard option, or is it still just a one-off like the basic Acronis?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Might be just basic Acronis. There we go.
Yeah, if it's still the basic local only, it's not bad. Like I said, it's lacking.
It's lacking, but that's life. I should reset.
Again, the scalability issue of I got to do this on a bunch of computers at a bunch of locations, and I want to be able to see it quick and not have to spend the entire day figuring out what did and did not back up.
Yep. UniFi switches can be hard to find, especially the higher end PoE ones. Yeah, out of stock. I mean, things are getting better, but out of stock was definitely a problem for a while with just everything.
And their new model for these switches with the PoE, the wattage is so low. Like the 16 Lite, which is they're now really the one they want you to use, is only, I think, 45 or 55 watts of PoE power. Like, let me pull that up.
Yeah, well, or send me a link and I'll pull it up on their site.
Yeah, I could actually.
Yeah, I think you can share stuff.
I can. Let me find it really quick. Let me at least get the tab up ahead of time.
Oh, I'm working on. Okay, while Steve's doing that, we'll throw this. Okay, we'll throw Steve's on the screen.
Okay.
Now let's share
it didn't. I shared it, but it didn't come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, 45 watts of total PoE availability. And we found that out when we plugged in about 4 Wi-Fi 6 LRs, and then the fifth one wouldn't light up. It didn't have the power for a fifth one, despite having 8 ports of PoE.
Yep, that's a challenge.
And here's the wild thing: is if you look at the switching, because I just had to look at these. Now, these have a little asterisk, 52 watts of total PoE. This is the 8-port with 4 ports of PoE. The asterisk is with an external 60-watt power adapter, which it does come with. So not if you power it off PoE. Yes, if you use the actual brick it comes with.
Yep.
And even their this is a problem with all their Gen 2 equipment. If we look at the Switch 24 PoE, similar problem, 95 watts. So you have 16 ports of PoE. But if you're trying to plug in a lot of APs, it's going to be a problem, because I want to say U6LR pulls close to 10 watts at times. And I think their 16 big boy Gen 2. Yeah. Look at the rack mount 16. 42 watts of PoE availability. So this is finding the high wattage stuff. You have to buy all the pros, and it gets expensive. And I think that's where some of the complaint comes in too on the UniFi pricing. It's not like the Gen 1 equipment where you had 2 different 24 ports. Here's all the ports are PoE, and you have a 250 watt option and a 500 watt option.
Yeah, they're changing them up a bit.
Yeah, I'm less than impressed.
Yeah.
They're still good. It is just something you have to be aware of on a larger deployment.
And when you're something to really note, you have to look at the full camera wattage of what the camera uses in night mode, because that IR bumps it up. So you can actually have switches that get overloaded at night, but don't during the day. Yeah, they used to do a 150 watt one. They don't do that no more. I don't think they sell
used
that.
to have the 128 port, and that's what a client had. And I had to get 2 of the new 8-port lights because he was using all 8 ports of PoE, but he had the old 8 150.
Yeah. So I want to do a video on this topic soon, so we can log into one of these VMs. We'll run HTOP so we can see this. So you can see that this has 16 cores attached to it. So there's the 16 cores running here. It's assigned 16. What not everybody knows, though, without restarting the VM, you can actually remove the cores. You can take them out, and you can also put them back. But that's not what I was going to do the video about. I was going to do the video about, hey, look, they're all back. What happens when you over provision CPUs, the good, the bad, the ugly? Because that was my consulting gig this morning. We got a discussion about the over provisioning of things, when to do it, when not to do it. And the consulting gig was an example of absolutely don't do it this way. They actually were able to, the new person coming in was able to just re-provision the CPUs in a rational manner and get better performance out of existing hardware. So there's a lot of little nuances to it. So it's definitely fun being able to do it, but it's actually kind of cool, the fact that you can scale CPUs dynamically just like you can memory. So like right now, this has 6 gigs assigned to it. If we wanted to only assign 2 gigs to it, we could just do this and reassign the memory to it. There's actually I did a whole video about how memory management works in XCP-ng. There's a little bit of trickiness doing what it's doing now, of what they refer to as evacuating the memory and bringing us down to like a 2 gig system versus bringing it back up to be a 6 gig system. Actually goes faster. It's easier to balloon up than balloon down. But you can balloon these back and forth while they're running to be able to do all that. Do you guys use managed or unmanaged switch security network? Managed switches. Pretty much we use managed switches used to be years ago a lot more expensive. So you may not always have a managed switch. They're so cheap now from all brands. Like the price of enterprise networking gear, more specifically just managed switches, has come down substantially over the last like 10 years. So pretty much we have managed switches in most all clients. I mean, a small office that just connects to the internet through a pfSense, do they really need a managed switch? It's maybe not always the case, but only really managed switches need if you plan to have VLANs and advanced configs in your networking. Yeah, and we like to separate some things out on there. Does the VM pause during the RAM resize? Actually, no. So here's the console running HTOP, and we see 16 processors available. So we're going to go here, and we're going to make it have 4 gigs. I press enter, and you're going to watch it go from 4, 3. Let me zoom in a little bit more here so you can see it. Enhance. And you'll watch it shrink the memory down. It takes a little bit time to shrinking it, but the VM doesn't stop running or anything like that. Let's bring it down to 2. Enter. Enhance. You actually seen some CPU load because it actually kicks off a process to evacuate the memory. But that process is faster going the other way. So actually, what's the max I can set this one to? Oh, this can have up to 16 gigs. You have min maxes you can set. So this can have a max of 16 gigs. So we'll balloon it up there. Enhance. Yeah, and now we're up to 16. There we go.
Goes up fast. Down slower.
You can scale up fast, but it scales down slow. Need a video tutorial on ACL and gateway features of my new Mellanox. Nope, not going to do it. But if you feel like doing it there, Chris, awesome, go for it. You're going to find there comes a point of diminishing returns. Like when you do some of the videos on something that's super technical like that, that's also niche, you won't get any views for one. And most of the people doing those prefer a technical write-up. So they don't care about a video as much. That's one of the reasons I don't like. There's certain things like I don't cover BGP with pfSense. I don't see the demand on it. The couple people who have covered it and made a video, there's no one really getting views on it because the demand, it's such a niche item. And usually people want a more technical write-up than a video on it. That's one of the reasons I just don't spend a lot of time on it. Does the Windows driver support that? Windows will let you change memory. Windows won't let you change the
CPU.
Right. Not that I know of. I don't know. I don't think you can do that. I think Windows doesn't support it.
Probably not.
So did I just close that? I've lost the screen I was on. Whoops. We actually see we got that we have a new Windows server set up.
Okay.
So
for
the lab, like we have one that is for some, because we separated the lab stuff and now we have the Windows server, so we can, where's it at? I guess I got to restore it. I don't see it anymore. Oh, it's right. It was on the other AMD machine. I backed it up before we took the AMD machine away. I did back it up. So let me share the screen. We'll do a restore. We're going to do it live. So here's the backup restore. LTS lab server. March 9th. I backed it up today. And we'll put it on local storage. Well, no, that's kind of a waste. I'll put it here. All right. Restore. Whoops. Incompatible. Oh, I did a thing that's dumb. Okay. I'm an idiot. I loaded it on Zen 8.3, not 8.2. So I'll have to convert it. Well, I'll just have to upgrade our lab to 8.3 or something. I don't know. I'll figure that out. There's probably some other Windows I can restore.
I didn't know we had a new server. I haven't had to be in there to look at anything.
This one's old. Oh, this one's not too old. March 2nd of 2022. That's going to need some updates. Hey, look, it's going to be done in 53,000 years.
Yay, invalid date.
Wow. That's how you know the bug is even better. We've gone beyond time.
Heat death of the universe.
And the heat death of the universe. This will be ready. Does Windows support? I know Windows supports memory management, but does Windows support processor changes? I just don't know. It may support it. I don't have a Windows system handy to test it. I don't have a lab one. I certainly have production systems I could do this on, but that seems terrible if it doesn't work. You cannot do VLANs if you don't have a switch that recognizes VLANs. There's not a way around that.
Well, and that's the tricky part. So some unmanaged switches will still pass the VLAN tag, and that's a gamble in itself on whether or not it strips the VLAN tag. Alternatively, you could get a small switch that does VLANs and then use that to just delegate VLANs out to your dumb switches.
Yeah.
We may be doing something like that.
Yeah.
With just our front counter area.
Oh, yeah, because it passes through that one, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have, instead of buying a smart switch to manage a bunch of ports that were just meant for customer stuff to be plugged into, we have it going into a dumb switch, which then the uplink to the UniFi switch from that dumb switch is tagged. So everything that goes in the dumb switch ends up on a VLAN.
Got it. Their version aren't compatible. Really, I never tried this. So I was running the alpha version of XCP&G because I was testing that system, and I backed it up while it was on the alpha version. I bet I can just lie and tell it it's the old version. I don't think there's any difference in there. But I'm running production 8.2, and I was testing on alpha 8.3. So this is something I did. This is not something you're likely to run into. It was me testing bleeding edge stuff. So if I have an old backup, I can't restore it to a system running 8.3. No, you have it backwards. I backed up from 8.3 and tried to restore it to 8.2. You can take an 8.2 backup and restore it to 8.3. That's how everything got on 8.3. I restored all the backups to 8.3. So you're in reverse. You can always go from an old version to a newer version, but I'm trying to go from a alpha newer version to the stable current version. So that's why I got that error. Windows Server can support full CPU memory hot plugging if you enable NUMA, not just balloon, but virtually unlimited resizing. Well, it's a matter of, does Windows support it? Not it's. I know that if the hypervisor supports it, which it does, dynamic CPU allocation, it's whether or not Windows supports it. Now, the warning though is going to come in. The important warning is, if you over provision CPUs. This is one of the things that was happening at this. I think this is one of the problems they were running into at the other place. If you cross the NUMA boundary, so let's say I have two processors and both processors have 24 cores, and I would like to assign more cores than a single CPU has, because why not? There's two. Well, when you cross NUMA boundaries, you now create a different problem, because you now lose some of the benefits you have of the caching, because now you're inside of two different processors and conflating things. So you don't want to do that. VMware uses NUMA, and you can use NUMA in here too, because let me go back to Phoronix. You control that under here. You say topology. So I can say it's one socket with that, or two sockets. So I can change it to where it's using NUMA versus just one socket with 16 cores. I can say 2 sockets with 8 cores per socket, or 16 sockets with 1 core per socket. You can do that too. I don't know why I would do this, but let's do it. So now we've changed the profile of this dramatically. I wonder if it's going to complain about 16 sockets. You got a 16 socket CPU here. Why not?
Oh, did you set it to 16 cores, 1 per socket?
Yeah.
Why not?
That seems dumb, but why not?
Does it affect anything in reality though, other than how the VM recognizes it?
Yeah, probably not much. Wonder, I mean, does it even tell me that? I don't know.
I mean, it would probably break some Windows licensing.
Yeah, that's the bigger one. Yeah, 16 CPU. So hold on, I want to make sure that I'm thinking right. So let's shut it down, because I don't think I can switch the topology while it's live. I could probably try. I don't know. We'll just leave it at default behavior topology. Well, we'll forcibly set it 1 socket 16. There we go. By the way, if you set this and then you try to change the CPUs, you'll notice that you're forcing a limit, and you'll cause a different problem. Like when you try to change it, it'll tell you can't change it. And the reason why is because you've set different limits over here. So be mindful of that. People who toy with XCP-NG or any of these things. I don't think 16 socket motherboards existed in a while. I don't know.
I haven't seen anything past a 4. I know you remember those old TYAN, tie-in, however you pronounce it. They made 4-core boards back in the day, and I don't even think that since went away.
It displays the same. The CPU still says 16, so
yeah, but now it's one CPU with 16 cores.
Yeah. So whatever.
Your Windows licensing is good again.
Yeah. Now Windows has a problem with sockets and cores. There's some limits in Windows. I forget what they are, but Windows has way different limitations than Linux, and not just licensing limitations.
Yeah, and it's like depending on what version you run. Like if you run Home, you can't go past X cores, but Pro can go up to Y.
Yep. You are saying the cores threads per CPU because it's one big feature missing from Proxmox is hyperthreading. Oh yeah, you can define all that in XCP-NG. They give you the ability to define that. They give you the CPU mask, weight, cap. Like what you can do is you can create weighted averages so you can favor VMs. Like if there's a resource conflict, who wins by default? If you have them all the same weight, they all win simultaneously, and you end up with CPU stealing is what it's called. Stealing is the term when you over provision CPUs where there's a conflict. Like I've got, how many cores are available on our system? 24. I have 24 cores available. If I assign 2 VMs 24 cores and they both all ask for 24 cores simultaneously, you end up with a CPU stealing going on. You can find some articles, and if you type in what is CPU stealing, you'll find some write-ups on there. It's fine. It's not bad, but at some point it's where your performance bottleneck is for doing that.
You basically have both VMs fighting over the same processing time.
Yeah.
Compute time, whatever you'd call that.
Yeah. The Dell R9, we don't see many of them, but you're right. The Dell R930s are for, we just don't see many of them.
I meant more like, because I was sure there were probably some Dell or Lenovo servers out there that had it, but I don't see much in like, let me just buy this board and put it in a server with 4 cores like we used to. Like I'm going to Newegg now because I'm curious. Because they had the one years ago.
And right here, man. Here's the
never mind.
Super Micro.
Why is it a weird shape? I don't like that.
Well, where are you going to stick 4 processors?
No, I mean like make it a square.
Oh, you want to make it square?
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? Guess what company's still making them?
There it is.
Oh, these are Opteron.
Yeah, those are old. What Opteron? Like the original Opteron? What socket is that?
Oh, Opteron's awful, so no.
But what socket Opteron? Because they kept the Opteron line for a while. Like, is that the old
Quad 127F, 1207F?
Okay, those were the newer Opterons. I'm like, did we just find the old board that was like the old socket 940 from a decade ago?
But this one should make you happy, Steve. It's square.
It is square.
Is that an option in Newegg to search for 4 sockets?
Yeah.
CPU socket. Quad
940. That's the old Opteron from like 2005.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's a quad board pictured there for $300.
Yeah, there's not too many quad ones available.
No. I mean, you could put 4 of those Opteron. That generation of Opterons, you could heat your house.
Yeah, you can definitely. Those were so energy inefficient.
Yeah, they were.
Hyper-V, we don't really use Hyper-V, but yeah, Hyper-V has some dynamic memory options and things like that too. So that's definitely something you can do with Hyper-V. But back to, what was I trying to do over here? I've already forgot. I was talking about CPU stealing.
Yeah. Created in 1969. Started in 53,133 years.
Yeah. I got to recompile it. They do have an update to the master branch, so we can recompile the software and do that. I was restoring Windows. That finished.
I thought, yeah, I was gonna say you did that a little while ago.
Yeah. Let me find Windows and add the tag YouTube to it so it shows up on my list properly. There we go. Actually, I like that I call it Winders. That was my tag on this old one, this old lab base. This lab base is old, but it's good enough to do what we want to do and play with the CPU sockets on it. Uh, 8-socket boards in China.
That I believe, but
they have a pile of old CPUs or something.
That's it. Like, what CPUs? Like, it's cool that an 8-socket board exists, but if I'm slapping 8 ARM processors on it, I'm not impressed.
Yeah. But so we can pull up the task manager.
There is a chance that if you change processors, task manager will not display it until a reboot.
Well, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to open another window to change the memory. That way I don't have to switch back and forth. I can leave that pulled up. And then I'm going to go to the lab. Go to YouTube, and we are going to change the memory in it to 4 gigs. And it's doing a thing. Yeah, available memory is going down. It worked. So memory's no problem in there.
I don't like how that worked.
Yeah. So now this machine, and you guys seen it in real time, now only has 4 gigs. So you can bring it back to 8.
But all it did was just fill up that memory space in the...
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I don't know how good this works. Now it's back up. I don't know. I feel like Windows is so fragile that we didn't do this. But what happens if we do this?
VMLAX feature.
Hold on. No. I have to first set this. You have to set CPU. You have to set the limits. So we'll shut it down.
Did you have it at an 8.8 limit, or?
I might have had it at an 8.8 limit. So let's change the limits to like
1.8.
Yeah, we'll do 416.
Sure. Single core, man. Come on.
Oops. Also, I gotta set this. I gotta shut this down to the topology. I gotta change it. I'll let it boot. I don't want to crash Windows. Windows is so fragile. I always feel that way about it. Like, if Task Manager sucks, blame Dave the plumber. Yes, I like Dave's Garage. That's a great YouTube channel. I've talked to him. Shutting down, fixing topologies. Who knows why Tom was playing with the topologies? Probably for this exact reason. There we go. Now we leave it default behavior, so now it should just dynamically assign it and not force a certain behavior. Go, Windows, go. Oh, RISC servers. The problem with RISC servers is they're pretty new, pretty different. So it's going to take a little while for support to ramp up for it. I think they're going to be, RISC offers a lot of advantages, and I think they're going to be popular. I think it's just going to be a little while before they're popular. But it's cool that it's out there. All right, now we can go 8-core VMLAX feature.
It might be limited to server OS.
Yeah, maybe. Because does this have? Yeah, they've got the drivers installed. Maybe it's got to. Yeah, maybe it has to have that extra things installed for that to work.
What if you try going? What if you try going down? Maybe we
Sockets
can
one,
go down but not up.
maybe. Well, what's interesting is it set it, so what we have to do is reboot it. And when it reboots, it'll have 8. But yeah, we'll
Okay.
try that. We'll reboot it and we'll see if it has 8, and then we'll try and put it down. We're all learning together here, folks. Yeah, I seen the management agent not detected, and that's what I'm wondering if we have to load the management agent on there. The problem is I have the Windows Update Citrix one on there right now. If I load the other one, it will puke. So I can't load. You can't have the Citrix one and the other one.
No, no, and it's hard to fix it and change it.
Well, I could. So now we have 8 there. Go back to the console. I'm pretty sure it's going to show 8 in here.
Maybe.
Task
Manager is weird.
Yeah. No, it'll work. So
8.
Yep. All right. So we have to just load the management agent. So let's see. What we have to do to load the management agent is stop. We got to go to the advanced here. Windows makes this hard. Can anyone tell I'm a Linux guy? There we go. Turn this off. Start it. Remove. Then load. There we go. So then we'll load the management agent and we'll see if we can swap CPUs on the fly with Windows. Maybe. Where did I put the disk? It's fast enough there. LTS, welcome. But now we got to do. Oh, Windows Go. God, I hate how slow that is. There we go. Aren't the Citrix drivers here? You can tell how often I do this.
I don't.
All right. Well,
I don't know.
All right. I don't see them here, so let's can't update. I don't care. We're doing this live. We're letting it. Oh, no internet. What? Well, I no, I'm not. I'm an idiot.
Did you not assign it a network adapter?
I did not assign a network adapter, so I don't have to go any further. First, I'm going to type Linux commands in Windows and be an idiot. But now we can just fix it this way. There we go. Missing PV drivers. That's why. Derp. All right. Force shutdown the VM? Yes, I would. Screw you, VM. There we go. Lab. Now, once I turned off the other Windows Update thing, I think it uninstalled them for me.
I think it does that. Sometimes. Then sometimes it doesn't, and they're just stuck in there, and that's your life now.
I always leave it by default. I haven't really had to change the video RAM.
I've had to turn it to 16 sometimes at high res for Screen Connect.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess if you bump it to a higher res, that's a thing.
And even then I only go to 16. I actually had responded to that one. Sometimes I move it to 16 because Screen Connect uses video RAM and when I want 1080 video because I don't want to be looking at a little 800 by 600 stretched.
Yeah. So see, I'm going to get the, I don't care about this. Citrix. Hopefully this will get me where I want to be. Did Citrix paywall this?
I thought these were old. Oh no, these are newer.
Yeah.
remember trying to do this before, and I couldn't find anything on the newer ones.
Where's the just download link? ZenBus, ZenVIF.
Yeah, I think you're going to run into the problem I was running into.
Version history. Where's click here to download?
I don't think it's there.
Oh.
I don't know if it's paywalled or behind a login or something, but I remember running into this. You can't get past like a certain version.
Yeah. Well, we can load the Windows XE PNG, so Windows Management Agent. You can load this one too. There's the links. Oh, they don't have the link here. Back. There they are. There's a GitHub for it. Cool. Before installing. Oh, trusted vendor. I don't care about trust funds. Pre-release. Where's just the download? Oh,
GitHub's hard sometimes.
Yeah. I'm missing where it is.
Down. Down.
Oh, it's under assets probably. Hey, look, there it is. That's the one from 2018. Do we have one newer? Wow. Hold on. See if there's anything newer in the forum post here. Assets. This one's from 2019. Cool. I think I want that set up, so we'll extract this here. Where's extract all? There we go. Install. Let's see what explodes.
Everything.
Copying new files. Oh, Citrix tool uninstall itself. Leaves various things behind. Oh, Whoops. Well, let's find out how wrong this is if we do it this way. I went through it. I next guessed my way to success or disaster. Does it reboot? Does it reboot? Sorry, how works task and Synology? I don't understand. You can use tasks, like I have it set up to do a webhook to activate Home Assistant. So Home Assistant does a thing to turn my lights on. So yeah, 8.22 is the latest. Yeah, he doesn't, and I don't recommend loading it. I use, by the way, I tell people use the Windows, just turn on the Windows Update, use the Citrix drivers. Like that's my answer as to what to do. Hey, look, it didn't just die.
Yeah, but can we change things now?
Well, let's go to Device Manager. I want to see what drivers are loaded. So display. No. Let's change the processor. That's all we're really here to do. Oh, still says not VMLAX feature. So Oh, well.
Yeah, I wonder if it is something that's just missing in the OS.
Could be. I got nothing. Maybe the Citrix ones to do it, but I don't feel like logging into Citrix to set that up. Like, I'm not going to go through the trouble. I don't care enough, honestly. So there's a management agent. It says it's there. The 8.2. So it's installed, but whatever. Not too worried about it. Just not that worried about it. We came, we saw, we poked. This machine's so old, it's going to have a ton of Windows updates that I don't feel like doing. Or this is such an old lab instance. Just run Linux. We only run Windows because we have to. Matter of fact, there was an article about how the Steam Deck has really pushed gaming into the Linux world even more because people are sick of Windows and the problems that associate with it. So, yeah.
I don't know if I'd get, like, I don't seem to have Windows problems with my games. I'm running games from 20 years ago. But I will say the ability to play them portably and have those Switch-like functions of, let me just hit that power button and pause my game. I love that.
I'm using Cat 6 Slim cables. I left links. This is a common question on each of those videos. There is a kit.co link in the description of every video that links to a store where we list all the parts we buy. And then we have subcategories, and specifically I'm assuming you're talking about the rack video. There is a parts list for the rack video that has the rack, the cases, including a link to the cables we're using inside of there. So there's just a slim run. Is it Monoprice?
Monoprice. Yep.
Yeah. There's a link into the exact ones we're using.
I actually think. Go ahead and answer that while I find it.
The task for the camera, the service. It's the task you run inside the DVA model. So if you want the DVA to do face recognition, you are limited into how many tasks you can have for face recognition, for example. So I'll pull up mine real quick. So here is the deep video analytics. So I have one called Who's on My Porch, and I have one called Watch the Shed. That's it. You can only have two. If I hit add, it won't let me add more of them. If they're actually, I take that back. It'll let you add them. It will only let you enable a couple tasks at a time.
I like the names of your tasks.
Yeah.
Who's on my porch? Watch the shed.
Who's on my porch? Watch the shed. So you can add more tasks, but once you start enabling tasks, that's it. And with face recognition, you can create task, and we'll say like garage for face. And then if I try to add another task, that I've reached the limit. You can either have one face task or two deep video analytics tasks. That's it. I covered that in more detail. I have a dedicated video about the
per NVR.
Yeah, it's the DVA. I did a review of it on my channel, and it's a nice system, but there's definitely limitations. You have to be fine with those limitations
if you want to use the bigger model.
Yeah, or buy the bigger model, which has different limitations.
So I found my multicolor slim runs, and these actually do say Cat 6A on them. So they should logically do 10 gig.
Yep.
And this one's loose.
Quick question. Home network symmetric gig to a Netgate 6100 and a 24-port edge switch worth upgrading a switch to 10 gigs router for uplink. All firewall rolls to the Netgate. I mean, if you have symmetric gig, 10 gig doesn't get you more than symmetric gig. So I don't completely understand the question. Like, if you 1 gig routing is definitely capable on the 6100. So I don't know what you have now, but 6100 is a good one for that.
Definitely. I would worry. Do you have anything on the LAN, like some kind of file server or things where multiple people connect and that could exceed 1 gig? So that way no one person could saturate it. That would be the biggest benefit of it.
Yeah. Monoprice Slim Run are the best. Color code, KVM management, the data runs. Yeah, I really like those Slim Run cables. They're just nice.
Yeah, that's what I did most. All the patch cables in the rack are the actual runs to the machines. I just got a bunch of colored ones from QVS and cut them up to make the runs down.
Yeah. But like these are those Slim Runs, and they just have a nice look to them. They got the nice little press the button to unlock them.
I like the snag guard on them. Other than sometimes it gets stuck under the clip.
Yeah, you have to flip them over, but they work great.
I think my favorite snag guards still, but they're less pretty because they're not slim. My favorite snag guard are still these ones from the ones we used to get from QVS.
Oh yeah, those work.
Because they don't ever get caught under the clip. And if you've ever been at an odd angle reaching behind something and why can't I get this out? And then you find out that, oh yeah, the snag guard is caught under the clip. Good luck.
The DAC, the DAC and QSFEP cables, they're thicker, especially these are 25 gig cables over here at this end. But this bad boy, once you go to the longer cable, this is just a 10 gig cable, but it's a longer one that wraps around the case a little bit further. You can see how thick they are. So once you go to those, I think it's once they go over what's that? What is that one?
Yeah.
That goes down to the, I feel like it goes down to the 45 drive server.
Why is that so thick? That's because it's 25 gig.
Because it's one of the thick boys, because we had those ones already. They're the ones that can carry for greater distances.
I guess it shouldn't be that long. It's only going to the bottom of the rack, and I thought I bought all new ones are roughly the same size.
Nope, it's the thick boy for there. Let me
I think that one was just thick to be thick.
Yeah. Refresh Task Manager, open it back up, will show memory difference. Okay, interesting. So pull up task. Performance. So we currently have, there you go, memories available, 5 gigabytes of RAM. Watch it go down. Or do we have to close and open it? Hold on.
I think you gotta close and open it.
Yeah, so we're at 4 gig now. Go back to Task Manager. No, still says 8 gig. Huh.
Yeah, someone said it's because it basically fills it up, gives it back to the hypervisor, but then lets you come back and pull it back later.
Modified.
I don't know that they're right, but it made sense.
Yeah.
I don't know that you're right, but it sounds good.
Yeah. Can Windows survive with 2 gigs of RAM? Then what happens? I don't know. Still shows it. But what if we reboot it? Then what does it show? So currently we're showing 8 gigs. So let's reboot it. For fun and science. Thick with 2 C's, man.
Yeah, I just respond to that. Most 3 feet or less cable runs are patch cables. So, I mean, you're not really bundling them together in a way that I would imagine you would get much crosstalk.
This is an old myth. I actually think this was addressed. Me and one of the people who's on the IEEE committee, we did a video together. Dan Barreras, they're on there. And there was this weird myth that got persisted for a long time because of someone confidently posting in a forum post that you can't use a short cable because it doesn't it's so short the wires don't cross over each other enough times to eliminate crosstalk. And I'm like, that's not true.
That's not how that works.
It's not how it works. This is not how it works. Just because someone confidently said this in a forum, but it was a really old forum post, and apparently this person had enough authority that this myth was perpetrated for a while.
See, and now what I want to know from a physical perspective, how are you getting that many 3-foot runs bundled together like that? They're not that long.
Right.
Like, I have
Windows run with 2 gigs of RAM?
What? Yeah, Windows will run with 2 gigs of RAM. Not great, but it will.
Okay. So it'll walk with 2 gigs of RAM.
I don't know. I think the minimum for Windows 10 is like 512.
Okay. It's booting, so there's that.
RAM 1 gigabyte for 32-bit or 2 gigabytes for 64-bit is the minimum system requirement per Microsoft.
It shut down. So we'll bump it to 4. I don't know why it shut down. It may be related to that. Let's find out. Or did we just break Windows? I don't know.
We could have broke it with the other stuff we did. But yeah, per Windows, supposedly it's 2 gigabytes.
But not this install. We did something. Now we've got to please wait. I'm gonna go with we may have just broke this. Because I don't have the patience to please wait. Oh, that's all right. We're reaching the end of the vlogs. I got a few things to go do. Your swap file will be really active at 2 gig. That seems likely.
Yeah, your drive's going to be banging away, and I don't think it would have changed the page file, so we would have enough page file to still do stuff. It would be wild if you spun it up with 2 gigs from the beginning, because I don't know if Windows still has this, but the old default used to be to create a page file equal to RAM.
Yeah. It's doing something. I just don't know what. The Bloom driver and other services are both trying to gobble up RAM, and none of them can complete its attempt. Probably. I don't know if you're right, but like Steve said earlier, it sounds right.
Yeah.
And having no other answer, we're going with your answer.
Was it like from I think that was a comment in It's Always Sunny about like burning trash, and then it goes up and it makes stars, and and they're like, that doesn't sound right, but I don't know enough to argue that.
Yep.
Did we not have any questions that were emailed in?
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
I thought about it at the beginning, and then you talked about a couple things, and then I was like,
actually,
I thought
we had 0. We had 0 questions emailed in. So
convenient.
Yeah.
So
I did check, and I'm shocked there were no questions.
Send more questions.
Yeah, send more questions. We'll throw the banner up here because we're gonna wind this down here, but it's email questions to vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com. Yeah. As I made my show notes at the beginning, and I was like, let me check that, because we do this on the Home Lab show too. And they actually go, there's a subfolder for feedback. I got like a feedback, and I got 2 folders. One's for Home Lab, one's for Vlog Thursday. And Home Lab actually has more, but Vlog Thursday does not. So no one bothered emailing me.
Email, what's next? Voicemail? Yes, please fax us your questions.
Please fax us your questions.
Snail mail it. Carrier pigeons.
Yep. I think we just flat out broke Windows, so I'm gonna just.
You might just let it ride for a bit, or doing that may fix it. Sometimes doing that fixes it.
We're just gonna remove it. It's
you don't need stamps if you use a carrier pigeon.
Yes. All right. Any more final questions here? Because I'm gonna go watch Last of Us because I haven't watched it yet. Not the last episode, at least.
Oh. I love the story of the character that, what's his name from Parks? Nick Offerman. They said that they had to get on him. There's a story going around that they have to get on him because he keeps using all the tools to fix things around the set.
Yes. Nick Offerman brought Nick Offerman to the set. That was great. Yeah. Nick Offerman is awesome. Windows is drunk. Yes. We're gonna have Veronica probably on again for the Home Lab show. I don't know if she's available in the afternoons to do Vlog Thursday. So, and we mostly ramble on about stuff here. We don't have a real structure to this other than we come on here and we kind of babble on and answer a lot of people's questions and things like that.
Break some Windows devices, and
we broke Windows today.
It's not a devlog without a bug.
Yep. So, all right. Well, I'll wind it down here. I'm going to go do some stuff. As always, email questions to Vlog Thursday. We like answering these questions on the vlog. So, someone has one more question here. My last question is cabling. Why use 25 gig Cat 8 copper when you have fiber that can scale to 100 gig?
Because it's easier to find people who can terminate Cat 8 copper.
Yeah. I mean, we don't really use Cat 8 that often. You don't see it. With the exception of weird people who say, "Oh, I recommend using it in my home lab." Have fun, dude. The stuff's expensive.
We've seen some people who, I just built a new house, so I wired it for Cat 7. And I'm like, I guess I get it. If you're going to be there in the next 20 years, cool.
Yeah. For the most part, like what we used on ours is these are 25 gig DAC.
Mm-hmm.
So the 25 gig is just all DAC in here. DAC is better than fiber for things like this. You know, why use a bunch of fiber connectors when it
costs less than fiber connectors, because the cost of that DAC cable is only slightly more than the fiber that would go between them, but I didn't have to buy 2 transceivers.
Right.
The 2 transceivers well exceed the cost of, I think 1 transceiver in many cases starts exceeding the cost of a DAC cable.
Yeah. And I have a whole video called "Put Some DAC in Your Rack." And because it just sounded great.
Yeah, I like that. The only we have 3 fiber runs in the office. So if you go up to the picture at the top.
Oh, yeah. Let me find that one real quick. But
I
highlighted it in a video, which I don't know if it's as clear here, but yeah, here it is. I can read it.
Wait, why did? Yeah, we have 3.
Yeah.
One goes to our front lab area. One goes to the back switch that supplies the offices where if you guys remember videos from long ago where the rack used to be, I couldn't move. Back up. I didn't want to. I could have done anything. I didn't want to move all those connections. So we just had a fiber that ran back there already and then made that go to a switch there. And then the green one is actually OM5 fiber that is running 25 gig to the lab rack.
Right.
And I went OM5 because, well, it's going to be cool when we get 40 gig stuff later.
Yes. Well, no, we're going to go to 100 gigs. So we're going to go 25 and you get the 4x20.
I don't know that it'll do 100 gig. I think when I looked at the OM5, I would have to look at the OM5 standard again.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll just start bonding more of these together. Quick question: is NFS run over to site tunnel? No, don't do that. I mean, there's probably somebody doing it, but I don't recommend it. Do not run NFS over site to site. I mean, it's just there's better ways to do backups. NFS is over a site to site tunnel. NFS and SMB aren't favorable to loss, like if there's a drop. So I wouldn't do it. One of those, probably not the best idea. Like if you're transferring over a VPN, definitely you want to be doing that with a different protocol that's more internet friendly than NFS. Transfer things over SSH or I don't know. There's better ways. SSH is good. S3 bucket transfers. So that's one of them too that can work. Oh, I think I've slowed down my stream.
What'd you do?
I may be downloading something.
Whoops. Is it
Season 8?
You're not supposed to admit that.
No, I legitimately, yeah, whatever. It's too late for that.
I bought it on iTunes.
I bought it on iTunes.
Whatever.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stop this here. Thanks everyone for joining. Is my voice choppy or
a little bit? Your voice is actually all right. Your movements look like a 5 FPS security cam.
Don't click the button while you're doing. Yes, I legitimately pay for HBO because they're a wonderful company.
They gave us John Oliver.
Well, they host John Oliver.
Yeah,
he's entertaining at least. And they put Nick Offerman on there, so there's that.
And doesn't it have Adam Driver as well?
Not in Last of Us, no.
Who else am I thinking of?
I don't know. We'll think about that later. So, last question. What ports open up for clients connecting Windows servers? None. You don't open up ports on Windows servers to the internet. None. Not unless you want to have a bad day. Yeah. Unless you want to have a bad day, you do not open ports to the things. That's just
you shouldn't put it behind a VPN.
Everything goes behind a VPN.
Yeah. I have to admit, I love the clients who are just 100% on board with that now. It's what ports do you have open? VPN?
Not internet internal. Internal, I mean, only what's needed, nothing more. Principles of least privilege. Like if they have something they need open, if not, why open it? Like workstations generally don't need anything open, and not even all workstations need RDP open. So
yeah, I guess I don't understand the question, I guess, fully. I mean, whatever ports are needed on the server to do the thing you need to do. For Synology surveillance, that's usually we try to do it if you're cool with it. Most people are cool with it being a little slow. They're not watching the live stream all day. So we usually try to keep them on Quick Connect. That way we don't have to open ports.
Because you can do Quick Connect with not opening ports. If they want a faster connection, this is why you segment your Synology to a separate network. You can do an open ports on there. So if you open a port on your Synology, you can
5001.
Yeah,
not 5,000.
Yeah,
5,000 is HTTP. 5,000 is HTTPS.
Yep.
Or I'm sorry, 5,000 is HTTP. 5,001 is HTTPS.
Yeah. So clear. So if I have an AD set up, so do clients need to contact AD?
Yeah, 53.
No. But yeah, you don't need to, like your server has, like if you set up a Windows server and you set it up, it has the right ports open for you. It does that automatically. So you don't have to do anything special.
And almost all AD stuff is mostly DNS.
Right.
So you shouldn't have to tamper with the ports. SMB automatically gets opened when you set up a file share.
Right. So you set up Windows, and Windows has certain ports that are
actually, when you set up AD, SMB gets turned on because of the net logon file. Therefore, SMB is now automatically open anyway.
Right. So
because
there's nothing special.
You have to have net logon and sysvol.
Yep. To get all the AD stuff working. So, but all right. Hopefully that cleared any of that up. Send questions to vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com, and we're more than happy to. I'll bring up those questions next week. I think next week. I gotta see if I'm going to Chicago for a thing. I think I'm coming back on Thursday, so I don't know what time I'm doing Vlog Thursday. I'll have to figure that out.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and then I won't be here next month, like on the 6th. So 4 weeks from now.
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
So fun stuff. All right.
The week after that, I could do it from the woods in Florida. I don't know.
That's true too. We'll figure it out. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a great time. See you next week, or whenever time next week is.